All right, 5 tracks I wish I made, part 2. I did one of these about 3 or 4 months ago. I enjoyed it. I want to do it again. I'm going to start in order of how old they are. So the first one is Chris McCormack, Erase Techno. This was made in 2003. This got shown to me by the legendary Ben Long from Space DJs. He was here on tour. We'll hang it out. Showed me this track, and I've probably been playing it ever since. And that was maybe 2014. So even then, I was still 11 years late to the party. I was 13 when this came out. It's funny, it's about 148 beat PM, I think, and it's timeless. It could work right now, no doubt. It's aggressive, it's fast, and Chris McCormack is a fucking legend. So let's get into it. Real heavy, real aggressive. Yeah, turn it up. No, you know, I ain't going to put it louder. Might be distorting, but I like it. Man, this is wild, wild. Still play it. And it is... So, when he first showed me this, it was just... I couldn't believe how intense it was for back then. And I know there was heaps of aggression back then. All the CLR stuff, Jeff Mills stuff, and so many others. But this just really stood out. It's that sort of scary, hovering guitar part. You know, and that... When that's changing pitch, this is sort of where I got that original idea of just transposing stuff. And I do that a lot with a random sound, and I'll pitch it up or pitch it down, transpose it in Ableton to do that right before it kicks back in or we go to another section. And it breaks down quite nicely, quite moody, and it just fires right back up. Straight back into that aggression. That snare's 4/4. Man, come on. That could fit straight into so many sets right now and go off. No doubt about it. So, it goes on for a while, but the energy's just wild. My cup of tea. So, shout out to Ben Long for showing me, and shout out to Chris McCormack. If you're not familiar with his stuff, definitely dive into his catalogue. This is one of my favourite tracks. And I'm pretty sure he did a 2 and a 3. You can see in the title it says part 1. I'm not too familiar with those ones. I did hear them, obviously. But yeah, part 1 is just bananas. So, 2003, Chris McCormack, Erase Techno. This one's not so much hard techno or anything like that. This is Skyhook 1 by Kieran. If you're from Melbourne, like I am, you know who Kieran is. He helped shaped and was a huge part of our sound. Even though he wasn't living here or actively DJing here, he was toured so many times and still is. And he's here all the time, especially back then. He's got so many hits. Think of My Monster's another one. Dancing Bears. What's the other one? I used to fucking play it all the time. I can't remember now. Ghetto something. Anyway, but he did Skyhook 1, 2, and 3. 2 was probably the most popular and still gets played today. 1 was my personal favourite because it was just, again, at that time, I hadn't heard anything like it. I started producing in 2008, so I was just right into production, and I was thinking, how the hell did he make this? I need to know this. I need to make music like this. This is the sound I want to make. It was weird. And it's not even fast, but you can appreciate this song. And I still play it sped up. So this is sort of like around the 1 minute mark. It's now kicked in. it doesn't. Now, obviously, you just heard Chris McCormack, and probably a lot of the audience is more familiar with what I'm doing now and stuff like that. But this was intense. His bass would just move and sort of almost wobble. His white noise was bananas, and it was his arrangement. It really was how we put it all together. He's so good, man. He's so good. I was lucky enough to play after him once or twice in Melbourne. We're lucky enough to bring him down the two floors up. He's just a beast. Beast. You know, like, come on, man. He also did a lot of stuff with Green Velvet. Let's turn this up. It's got to go up. Distort that bass a little bit. So you could imagine, you know, 15 years ago, like imagine everything you've heard in the last 15 years, delete it, and then this was getting played out at clubs, you know. That white noise tension's bananas. But it was everything. It was his choice of percussion, like that clap, snare hit, that perk hit. Wasn't that common back then. It was normally a clap or a snare. All those little details. So a lot of those little details he was doing there in transitions, that's where I sort of got it from. You know, where taking the kick out, reversing it, putting a random sound in right before you're adding or subtracting a new element. And he was great at that in most of his tracks, to be honest. So yeah, shout out Phil Kieran, Skyhook 1, check out his catalogue. 2 and 3 are pretty wild. This is my favourite, no doubt about it. I actually did an edit back in the day where I stacked Skyhook 1, 2 and 3 on top of each other. It did some EQing so they could work, and most of the structure works out the same, so they all sort of kick in and kick out at the same time. It was bananas. Shout out Phil. We're going to move to 2012. This was from Myler. Dean Myler. Shout out Dean Myler. I came across him probably just before that, where I was transitioning into Green Fetish Records and that style and all that sort of stuff. He's remixed my track 2 or 3 times, different tracks, different releases. Very grateful for. And he, when I first heard him, this was about 128 BPM, but his sound, his actual character and use of distortion blew my mind. Blew my mind. It was just so aggressive, and it was the type of stuff he was putting out at that time, where I was sort of finding my new influences around, you know, Fifth Wall, Clouds, Joe Farr, J-Tyne, Twin Turbo stuff, Perk, all that sort of stuff. He really stood out for me. Paul Birkin. But Myler really stood out because of that aggression. So let's check it out. Again, this is 13 years old. But back then, when the tempo was 128, if you could imagine how intense this was from the sound design point of view and the aggression point of view, it can definitely be appreciated. Let's just loop that again. Man, I hadn't heard anything like it back then for that sort of style of that real gritty analog modular techno. I don't even know, I think it was in the box, but that aggression. And he was very influential to a lot of the producers and DJs at that time, no doubt about it. He's got so many bangers. I know it's slower to you guys now, but man, I'm telling you, when that used to drop, mate, Slider Biscuits on special. So, here you got into more of a bigger breakdown. And you'll hear a lot of a lot of these songs I'm showing you today influenced me a lot for my production. From choice of samples, arrangement, little details, and the overall sound, especially this track here. Just wild, wild. Just that real gritty aggression that was not as common back then that it is now. So, shout out Myler. It's actually been a while, I hope you're well. But check it out, check him out. I think he recently did some stuff, maybe last year, I think. So I think he still might be around getting amongst it. Alright, this is a bit of a little change of pace. Gary Beck, absolute gentleman, absolute legend. Lucky enough to have hung out with him a few times. I played after him once when he was down here in Melbourne. Top bloke, amazing producer. He's got so many bangers, so many. Even though his music at the time for me wasn't, say, as hard or aggressive as the Green Fetish stuff and my influences around that sort of style, his production was just too good. And they were fucking club tracks you could play and they would always work. Hensey, Be Together, Leo, which I'll get into, and so many more, which I can't remember off the top of my head. His alias was also Sosak, I think. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully that's not wrong. This track, I play this almost every set. I speed it up now. It's probably not what you're going to expect me to show you based on my label and what I make and stuff. But I first heard this track. I had heard it, but it didn't do anything for me. And this is the beauty of music with context. I've walked into Amnesia in Ibiza in 2015. I've walked in, Sven Vath was playing, and he was playing this on wax. And it was just at that time when I walked in and the mood of this track was playing. And the room just transformed. The vibe was just ridiculous because it was moody. It was somewhat journey-like, right? And I use this a lot for like midway. It'd be sped up now and laid with 2 other channels, but it's that mood and it really brings the crowd together. Telling you. If you don't believe me, fucking try it. Let's listen. A lot slower, but such a clever producer. So about the 2.5 minute mark, we start getting into the actual mood of the track. That panning whine is just wild. You can imagine now Amnesia, a couple thousand, DC10, even Louisahhhh, they'll play in it. Fucking tune, mate. Man, memories coming back. And that's the beauty of it. It sort of peaks up to this point, which is quite, what's the word? Unifying. Then he sort of dips back out of it, carries on again with percussion, and then he gets back into it. He's just so clever, man. So clever. Fucking tune, mate. I'll pump utility, bit distorted, I like it. You'll be right. But I want to hear it in your comments. And then you get the gist of that. So shout out to Sven for turning me onto it in the context of a club setting rather than when I heard it on Beatport or promo, because that live experience definitely made me rethink about this song, and it's been a part of my life since then, no doubt about it. Gary, hope you're well. Shout out, brother. That was 2015. So they've all been 10 years and older. This one is a lot more recent, 2021. This is by Louisahhhh. Louisahhhh is an absolute legend. Her music over several years, especially my electro days, was always influential. She has an attitude that comes out in her music. Huge Nine Inch Nails fan, which I love. And this was on her album in 2021. And the whole album is unreal. And then the follow-up album she did with Malmstrom was amazing as well. And I haven't looked up the credits on this. He might have helped with production. I'm not sure, but I am saying that in case that was the case. But either way, she's unreal. Check her out. Check out Malmstrom too, another legend. Again, when I got this EP promo, I was spinning out. And it's songs like this that are outside of my typical, 4/4 techno stuff. That is a bit broken beat, that has vocals, that isn't structured how I typically structure my music, because I normally typically make dance floor music. That it makes me think I'm doing it wrong, I suck, and I've gone the wrong direction my whole life. That's what music like this does to me when it's not that 4/4 techno. This song's a perfect example of it. I was lucky enough to do a remix for her track Fan the Flame, which was with Malmstrom, which came out last year. Check out the original, check out the remix, but check this out. This is wild. How's the vocal? Unreal. Even now when I hear it, I'm like, mate, you're making the wrong music. I'm doing it wrong. What's that, man? Come on. Mayhem. Absolute mayhem. The vocal is unbelievable. That's what I was saying. That attitude just comes straight through and fucking knocks you out. And that's probably one of my favourite things about her and her music. No doubt about it. I do know a bit of her context to her personal music choice, which is probably one bit biased as well, but yeah, check her out, man. She's wild. And her DJ sets are really good. They're very diverse. And there's some tracks in there she'll play that you might not thought she would have played if you were expecting to go see her DJ, which I love. It's just, you never know what you're going to get, and she's a great DJ. Back up. But the attitude in that vocal. It's not too much more to say. See, when I hear shit like that, it depresses me now because I should be doing proper stuff like that. Anyway, shout out Louisahhhh. Numb, Undone, 2021, off her, I don't think it was her first album, but off that album, can't remember the name. So yeah, 5 tracks I wish I made. I've pulled influence from all of them for different reasons. Could be structure, details, signatures, transitions, mood, use of distortion, synths, pads, all the way down to general attitude. No doubt about it. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what tracks influenced you wish you made in the comments below, and we'll see you next week. Ciao. Thank you.